Hello, this is Dr. Clarence R. Pearson Sr., and welcome to My View, a podcast where I offer my professional perspective on today's most pressing geopolitical and socioeconomic issues. Recently, my attention has been drawn to developments concerning the US Iran peace talks planned to take place in Pakistan, especially in view of what I call the Vance effect. Here is my view on the matter. The Vance effect, navigating a crisis of credibility in American diplomacy. In April 2026, American diplomacy finds itself at a crossroads defined less by power than by trust. For decades, the United States operated as the central pillar of the global order, its commitments, whether military, economic, or diplomatic, carrying an assumption of continuity. That assumption has now eroded. What remains is a fragile landscape where allies hesitate, adversaries calculate, and credibility itself has become the most valuable and scarce currency in international relations. It is within this context that Vice President J.D. Vance has emerged as an unlikely central figure in negotiations to end the escalating conflict with Iran. The talks unfolding in Islamabad, Pakistan, represent more than a diplomatic initiative. They are a test of whether the United States can still persuade the world that its word has meaning. Mr. Vance's role reflects a deliberate, if unconventional, strategy. Unlike many within the current administration, he has cultivated a reputation as a skeptic of military intervention, a voice wary of prolonged entanglements abroad. That reputation, once a point of internal tension, has now become an asset. Iranian officials, confronting economic strain and domestic fatigue, appear to view him not as an ideologue, but as a pragmatist, someone capable of translating the impulses of Washington into something resembling a stable negotiating position. For Tehran, the calculation is straightforward. After years of sanctions, intermittent conflict, and abrupt shifts in American policy, the Iranian leadership is searching for a credible interlocutor. Mr. Vance, by virtue of his perceived restraint, offers a narrow opening. Whether that opening can be expanded into a durable agreement remains uncertain. The broader challenge he faces is not simply diplomatic but structural. The United States is negotiating under the shadow of what might be described as a credibility recession. Policy reversals, unilateral military actions, and a growing reliance on transactional diplomacy have left both allies and adversaries questioning the reliability of American commitments. In this environment, every promise must overcome the burden of recent history. Mr. Vance's task is further complicated by the competing pressures that define his position. Within Washington, influential figures such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio continue to advocate a more assertive, military first approach. Their view, rooted in traditional power politics, casts negotiation as a potential concession rather than a strategic tool. For Mr. Vance, each diplomatic gesture must therefore be framed not as compromise, but as strength, a difficult balance in a polarized policy environment. Beyond Washington, Israel remains a pivotal and unpredictable factor. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has long expressed skepticism toward diplomatic overtures that might leave Iran with even a latent nuclear capability. Israeli officials fear that any agreement brokered under the current framework could prioritize short term stability over long term security. The risk of unilateral action, whether in Lebanon or against Iranian assets, hangs over the negotiations, threatening to unravel them at any moment. Hovering above all of this is the influence of President Donald Trump, whose leadership style has introduced a level of unpredictability that complicates even the most carefully constructed diplomatic efforts. Mr. Vance operates not as an independent negotiator, but as an extension of presidential authority, tasked with reconciling shifting public rhetoric with the demands of sustained negotiation. The challenge is as much political as it is diplomatic. Any agreement must be presented not as a concession, but as a decisive victory. The possible outcomes of this effort range from breakthrough to breakdown. In the most optimistic scenario, the negotiations could produce a framework that limits Iran's nuclear ambitions while reopening critical maritime routes, offering a measure of stability to global markets and regional politics alike. Such an outcome would mark a significant validation of realist diplomacy, demonstrating that restraint and negotiation can succeed where force has faltered. The alternative is far more sobering. A collapse of talks could trigger a rapid escalation, drawing in regional actors and transforming a contained conflict into a broader war. The fragile ceasefire that currently holds could dissolve under the weight of mutual distrust, replaced by a cycle of retaliation that neither side can easily control. Between these extremes lies the most probable outcome, a prolonged stalemate. In this scenario, temporary arrangements may prevent immediate conflict, but the underlying issues remain unresolved. The region would exist in a state of managed tension, where the absence of war is mistaken for the presence of peace. For Mr. Vance, such an outcome could carry political consequences, positioning him as the face of an incomplete and unsatisfying process. Yet the significance of the Vance initiative extends beyond its immediate results. It reflects a broader transformation in the nature of diplomacy itself. In an era where institutional trust has weakened, individual credibility has taken on new importance. The success or failure of negotiations now hinges as much on the perceived intentions of negotiators as on the formal terms of agreements. For the global community, this shift carries profound implications. It suggests that power alone is no longer sufficient to shape outcomes. Without credibility, even the most powerful states find their influence diminished, their intentions questioned, and their strategies constrained. The outcome of the current negotiations will not determine the future of the Middle East alone. It will also shape perceptions of American leadership in a rapidly changing world. If Mr. Vance succeeds in bridging the trust gap, convincing Iran that agreements will be honored and reassuring Israel that diplomacy can provide genuine security, he will have accomplished something rare in contemporary geopolitics: the restoration of confidence in American diplomacy. If he fails, the consequences will extend far beyond a single negotiation. The credibility recession will deepen, reinforcing a global order increasingly defined by suspicion, fragmentation, and the absence of reliable intermediaries. In the end, the Vance effect is less about one man than about the system he represents. It is a test of whether the United States can still function as a credible actor on the world stage. In a time when trust is scarce and stakes are high, that question may prove more consequential than any single agreement. My View is a continuing series where I share informed commentary on a wide range of geopolitical and socioeconomic topics. If you found today's discussion helpful, please follow, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I invite you to explore other My View episodes available online. Until we meet again, goodbye.